What if I told you that the moment you stop expecting the world to owe you anything, you become unstoppable? Not just motivated, not just disciplined, but dangerous in the most productive, powerful sense of the word. Because when you realize that no one is coming to save you, not your parents, not your boss, not society, not even your friends, you start to rise like a man who has nothing left to lose and everything left to prove. Welcome to the channel where we explore the unfiltered truths about men, masculinity, and the path to personal power. If you're tired of surface-level advice and ready for deep, uncomfortable, but liberating realities, hit that subscribe button. Because today's episode might just snap you awake. The title? No one owes you anything. That's power. Let's begin. The year was 1942. A young soldier stood alone in the ruins of Warsaw, Poland. His name was Witold Pilecki. At just 41, he had already seen the world unravel under the crushing boots of tyranny. But what made him legendary wasn't just his military record. It was that he volunteered to get captured and sent to Auschwitz, yes, volunteered, to gather intelligence on the horrors inside. He didn't wait for justice. He didn't expect the world to protect the weak. He didn't say, "This isn't fair." He said, "Send me." This is not a motivational cliche. This is the brutal, gritty, painful heart of masculine responsibility. He knew no one owed him a rescue mission, and instead of crumbling under that fact, he weaponized it. What kind of man does that? The kind who stops asking the world for fairness and starts becoming the answer himself. Now come back to the present. We live in a world saturated with entitlement. Voices shouting that the system is broken, that life is unfair, that people should do more, give more, be more for you. And yes, some of that might be true. But here's the haunting truth. Even if all your complaints are valid, the world doesn't care. And it doesn't have to. That's not cruelty, that's reality. Gravity doesn't care how you feel when you fall. But here's the twist. Accepting that reality doesn't make you powerless, it makes you free. Because once you stop waiting for an apology, for a rescue, for someone to hand you the life you think you deserve, you start building one with your own hands. You stop being a boy, and you start becoming a man. Picture a Roman legionnaire 2,000 years ago. His sandals are worn, his arms are scarred. He's seen empires rise and crumble. In the dead silence before a barbarian charge, he doesn't ask, "Why me?" He tightens his grip. He braces, because in his mind there is no savior coming. The glory or the grave, that's his to face. This ancient mindset still burns in the DNA of men today, but we've buried it under distractions, comfort, and endless affirmations that you are enough just as you are. But are you? It's a dangerous question, but it's one that real men ask themselves not once, but constantly. Not to shame themselves, but to sharpen themselves. The strongest men you know are not cruel. They are independent. They walk into a room not expecting anything from it, but prepared to offer something to it. Leadership, strength, vision, direction. Because they've already internalized this law. No one owes you anything, not love, not loyalty, not success. And that's the exact reason why everything you build becomes sacred. Let me take you to a small island in Japan, Okinawa. After World War II, many young men there were left orphaned, directionless, and angry. Some could have chosen the path of bitterness, but one man chose to do something else, Masoyama. He created one of the most brutal martial arts in the world, Kyokushin Karate. What made his discipline different? He'd train in the mountains, alone for years. He punched trees until his knuckles split. He fought bulls with his bare hands. Why? Because he believed that pain is the gatekeeper of manhood, and only those willing to stop blaming the world for their pain could ever command it. Masoyama once said, "One must try every day to expand one's limits." What he didn't say, but what his life screamed, was this. The moment you demand nothing, you unlock everything. Now let's bring this even closer to home. Maybe you didn't have the best father. Maybe no one taught you what it means to be a man. Maybe you faced rejection, failure, heartbreak, betrayal. Good. You're not cursed. You're being carved. Life isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to see what's underneath your excuses. Because if everything were given to you, nothing would be earned. And what is masculinity if not earned identity? A man who hasn't fought for himself doesn't know who he is. He borrows his strength from others. He borrows his validation from relationships. He borrows his sense of purpose from trends, clout, or dopamine hits. But the man who rises without asking permission, he becomes his own storm. It's easy to say you want to be strong. It's much harder when strength means no one claps for you, when you work in silence, when no one notices, when you fail and no one picks you up. But that's the test. It's not about proving yourself to the world. It's about proving to yourself that you can live without needing it. You think lions care what sheep think of their roar. You think gladiators paused mid-arena to ask if they were being understood? You think Alexander the Great, at 30 years old, who conquered most of the known world, paused to say, "Someone should have given me more"? No. He took the world as it was, and then he moved it. But let's pause, because maybe you're watching this and saying, "But I do feel alone. I do feel like life owes me something. I didn't ask to be born into chaos." That's fair, and real, and painful. But here's the final twist in this first half of the journey. You don't need the world to give you what you think you're missing. You are what you're missing. That part of you that still believes in strength, in sacrifice, in honor, in becoming something more than a consumer, more than a passive observer. That part of you is waiting, but it won't wait forever. You must kill the lie that someone, somewhere is coming to fix this for you. Because when you kill that lie, something else is born. Power. The kind of power no one can take. Not a boss, not a breakup, not failure, not poverty, not even pain. When you finally realize that no one owes you anything, you stop begging for permission. You start building your own kingdom. So now we reach the second half of this journey. You've seen how men through history, warriors, visionaries, monks, kings, have thrived not because life handed them privilege, but because they refused to wait for it. But here's the question you must now ask yourself. Are you building a life or waiting for one to arrive? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Masculinity isn't a gift, it's a trial. No one hands it to you. There's no certificate, no age you reach where it magically appears. It must be forged. Every day, in every choice you make when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. You rise or you rust. Think about the modern man who works 12 hours a day in silence, who comes home not to praise but to responsibility. A man who doesn't post his struggle, who doesn't complain about his lack of sleep, who doesn't cry for attention. He just shows up, again, and again, and again. He isn't weak because he's quiet. He's dangerous because he's dependable. In a world that rewards noise, men of quiet resolve are becoming the rarest and most needed force. Because here's what no one tells you. Your silence can become your weapon. Your consistency can become your legacy, and your refusal to act entitled can become your crown. But first, you must bury something, the part of you that waits. Waiting is death for a man. Waiting for someone to give you love. Waiting for someone to hand you your dream job. Waiting for the right time to get in shape, start the business, leave the comfort zone. What you don't realize is, life owes you nothing, but it will offer everything. If you're willing to take the hits first, you must earn your voice in the world, earn your place at the table, earn the self-respect that comes not from words but from war. Because inside every man is a battlefield, between who he is and who he could be. And every day you don't fight, the weaker side wins by default. That's why the moment you let go of the idea that the world is supposed to help you, that's when the real world opens. It doesn't mean you become bitter. It means you become bulletproof. Remember this. There is no path to power that doesn't pass through pain. Think of David Goggins, the man who rewrote what endurance means in the modern world. He ran on broken legs. He trained while bleeding. He embraced the suck, not because he wanted to suffer, but because he understood the brutal mathematics of manhood. The more pain you can endure, the more power you possess. He once said, "You are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential." Let that settle, because that is the fate of the man who waits to be given everything he wants. He dies with everything he could have been, still locked inside. So what do you do with this truth? You stop expecting. and you start executing. You show up before the world applauds. You give before the world pays. You train before the world believes. And slowly, silently, the man you are waiting to become becomes real, because the paradox is this: the less you expect from the world, the more the world offers in return. Not because it owes you, but because it recognizes something in you. Discipline, integrity, clarity. Men like that, they change rooms, they change families, they change nations. Not because they demanded to be served, but because they learned to serve something higher than themselves. A vision, a standard, a future. But let me warn you, this road is lonely at first. You will feel misunderstood. You will feel like giving up. You will look around and see people coasting, cutting corners, quitting early, and winning. Don't flinch, because those who win fast also fall fast. You're not building a moment. You're building a monument, a life that stands long after the crowd forgets your name. So don't chase applause, chase alignment. Be the man who sharpens his soul in silence, who builds without needing validation, who carries the weight without needing to show the world the scars. Because those are the men we remember, not the loud, not the flashy, but the resilient, the ones who owned nothing, but earned everything. There's a story from ancient Sparta. A boy was caught stealing a fox, but he didn't confess. Instead, he hid the animal under his cloak. The fox, desperate, began clawing into his stomach, tearing through skin. The boy stayed silent. He died moments later, but never revealed his weakness. Was it foolish? Maybe. Or maybe it was a symbol, a brutal code that said, the world doesn't need to see your pain to respect your strength. That doesn't mean you never speak. It doesn't mean you become emotionless. It means you choose when to speak, and you choose your suffering wisely. Because masculinity is not the absence of feeling. It's the refusal to let feelings dictate your mission. Your mission is your compass. And every time you ask the world to give you something before you've bled for it, you lose the map. So let me ask you one final question. What would your life look like if you expected nothing, but demanded everything from yourself? What if every setback became training? What if every rejection became fuel? What if every silence from the people around you only pushed you deeper into purpose? That's what men of history did, and that's what you can do. You're not owed love, so become so grounded in your worth that you attract love without chasing it. You're not owed success, so build so fiercely that success finds you, whether it wants to or not. You're not owed peace, so go to war for it, internally, physically, spiritually. Because once you understand that no one owes you anything, you become the most dangerous man in any room. Why? Because you have nothing to lose. And a man with nothing to lose can change everything. If this hit you somewhere deep, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Comment below. Tell us what you're fighting for, what you've stopped waiting for. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Because here we don't worship comfort, we forge character. And remember, when the world gives you nothing, that's when you realize you have the power to give yourself everything. This was No One Owes You Anything, That's Power. Until next time, keep building.